Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this segment of One-on-One. Today, we're going to go to Lafourche. With some ties to Terrebonne Parish, Coach Don Grabert is my guest today. Right after the break, we start our conversation. One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer. And welcome back to One-on-One. As promised, Coach Don Grabert is our guest. Coach, good to see you.
Morning.
I'll tell you what, as we were sitting talking before the show, you're starting your 39th year at E.D. White. But your ties to Terrebonne are pretty strong.
Yes, it is.
Explain that. Take us back. Take us through Terrebonne.
Well, my mother's a Voisin from Bayou Large. Her dad was Cyprien Voisin. So I have multiple cousins from down on the bayou. Had some that went to Vanderbilt, some went to Terrebonne. My mom actually went to Terrebonne, and the rest of her brothers and sisters went to St. Francis.
Yeah.
So yes, we grew up a lot of times going to Bayou Large, going hunting and fishing. So yeah, it's quite an enjoyable moment.
That Voisin family is such a big family.
Yes, it is. It's huge. I think my mother told me at one time we had like 500 first and second cousins. So it's a big family.
So any succession, not gonna be much of one, right?
No.
Just a lot in row. But how did you end up in Thibodaux? That's unusual. Most voisins stayed on the bayou. How did you end up?
Well, since my dad is a Grabert, we grew up in Rayson. Okay. I was born in Thibodaux. Right. My mother was a nurse and my dad was a plumber. And so we grew up in Rayson. One of my uncles was the head football coach at Rayson High School in Central Lafourche, Ori Grabert. And I had a couple of aunts that were teachers, so we pretty much stayed in Rayson. And basically, that's where I grew up. I went to Central Lafourche High School, graduated in '73, and then went to Nicholls State University. And once I was in Thibodaux, I kind of like stayed around Thibodaux.
Right.
So, and eventually, after I graduated from high school, I went to work at Rayson Junior High for about a year and a half. Then after I got out, and I went to the oil field, and I went to Delta Services, and I stayed there for about 3 years. And I was a medic, I was a personnel rep, and a safety engineer over that time period.
Now, for full transparency, something I learned when you walked in this morning, you interviewed me for my first job at Delta when I was coming right out of college.
Yes, I did. I always remember that. You came in and they said you were going to go work in the main office over there, and then I was the one who told you the benefits and everything else. But yeah, I'm the one who talked to you first.
Was I well behaved?
Oh, yes, you were. Yes, you were.
Had to check,
Yes.
So take me through the schooling. You said Central Lafourche. Once again, how does a guy from Central Lafourche make it to Thibodaux proper?
Well, because I went to Central Lafourche, I went to college, and I wanted to go to college. Most of my brothers and sisters didn't go to college. They all worked and stuff, and they're quite successful. But I wanted to go to college, so I went to Nicholls and made a lot of friends in Thibodaux. And a lot of my friends went to E.D. White. And from there, I just liked staying there, and I liked the atmosphere and stuff like that. Eventually, I went, like I said, I went to Rayson Junior High, and I taught there for a year and a half. But I still had all my friends, a lot of my friends in Thibodaux. And went offshore for a year, about worked in the oil field for 3 years, went offshore for about a year and a half. And after that, I came to E.D. White. And it's Coach Boyd Hebert, who is the one who helped get me on over there. So I thank him eternally for that. Because since I've been there, it's probably the best 38, 40 years of my life.
But one thing I got to say about E.D. White, and I always tell the story, if Dad wouldn't have thought Thibodaux was too far from Houma and we moved from Thibodaux to Houma, I'd have been at E.D. White. But traditionally, coaches stay at E.D. White for a long period of time. You're an example.
I broke in with Boyd and Preston, Eddie Cole, and Tom Buisson came when I went too. But it was great. I mean, the atmosphere is wonderful. I got along real good. We were like a family. And we still like a family to this day, is that we just had good ties together. all the coaches at that time period, they all worked together. No matter what sport you in, we all worked together, and it was great. It was a great time.
So you meandered in the business world for a while, but obviously inside something was tugging at you to coach all these years. Did your uncle influence that, or who really got you involved in coaching?
I liked sports. I was never too good in athletics. I was about 125 pounds when I graduated from high school. I liked athletics, but I wasn't too good in it. My dad was a pretty good athlete. And I think he wanted to be a coach, but the war came, World War II. And when they came back from the war, I think he wanted to go to college, but something happened where he couldn't go, so he went to trade school. And he went to Delgado, got a degree in plumbing, and became a plumber. Well, my Uncle Ori became a teacher and a coach. And he was a head coach, like I said, at Raceland, and then eventually at Central Lafourche after Coach Hillman retired.
Right.
So, yeah, I liked athletics. I loved athletics. I was not too good at it, but I liked it.
And I found some of the best coaches or some that didn't excel in sports, but they studied it. Were you one of those studious type of coaches that just dove in to look for technique and different things?
With track, football I did, but I learned from Preston Lejeune and Boyd. Now, I was great teachers.
Two great guys to learn from.
Great.
Yeah.
But in track, I learned from Coach Bubby Falgu, who was at Central Lafourche, who was track coach when I ran over there, which, like I said, I was on the team. Wasn't too great, but I was on the team. And Mr. Nali Osimo. Nali was a little bit older. He taught us a lot. Me and Coach Randy Bro from Central Lafourche, we'd go to him sometimes, and he would help us he would teach us things like on the hurdles and relays and things like that. So I was influenced by those two guys, particularly in track.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
And then, of course, you had Coach Eddie Cole at Edie White
Yes.
for the longest period of time. So
Eddie's still a good friend to this day. I wish he would have never left, but again, things change sometimes, and again, it prepared me for what I was going to be able to do, just, being under him. When I first got to Edie White, I was assistant coach, and about 3 years in, then they made me the boys coach, and then Eddie took over as the girls, and that's how we stayed until he left.
And we'll get to all the championships, and y'all have done pretty well.
Yes, we have over the, and I'm going to say it like this: you got to have athletes, but I don't think we had like athletes like all these top schools had. But I think we did the best we could what we had, and I think they excelled at it.
Y'all got the most. I always said y'all got the most out of the athletes for years. So well before other schools figured out, hey, we don't have the creme de la creme, y'all figured out how to get the most out of the ones that were just underneath that. And y'all did a great job of that.
Well, thank you. Again, it's about learning. Used to go a lot of the clinics, listen to LSU coaches. Lawrence C. Grave was there at the time. That's way back. And just going to these different clinics and listening. And then listening to Coach Cole, how he taught distance, but also from Coach Randy Bro and then some other coaches. So it's a accumulation of learning and then putting it all together.
Y'all may miss this by a couple of years, but I think probably you were right around the time of Larry Wilson.
Larry Wilson is going to graduate with my brother Pat about the same time period. I think Larry comes the next year or the year after that. So yeah, I remember watching him.
Right. Was that incredible?
Oh, he's awesome. He's still to this day. I think we were playing HL Bourgeois in a playoff game, and within, I think it was 10 seconds or 8 seconds, he scored 7 points to win the ball game. That was like unbelievable.
He was one of a kind. So what, over the years, have you learned most from coaching?
The thing I learned the most is how to get along with athletes and to learn who they are. And I think being a coach is a lot different than being a teacher, because I think you get on a more personal level with them when you're coaching, and you get to know them better. So I think the best thing about the coaching aspect of it is just knowing who they are, getting to know them better, and then later on just lifelong, friends with them. There's a lot of them I still know. A lot of them, One was Jim Westbrook. He lives in home. His daughter runs for Vanderbilt. He was state champion in hurdles, and he ran for me. And still have that relationship. When his daughter was in 8th grade, he actually came to me before, said, "Can you teach a little bit about hurdles?" And I did, a little bit. But I mean, it's just those connections you have with all those people over the years. That's what I loved about it.
When did Edie White and Vanderbilt actually start really getting along? Because I laugh, back in the days that we played, the rivalry was so intense. I mean, it really was. It was incredible. But when we got to college, we all became best friends, and we're going, Cam Morvall was our coach. Joe Fake was our coach.
Yep.
They were all stayed at Edie White. But somewhere along the line, it changed. Did you sense that change?
The way I always looked at things is that, we wanted the rivalry. We wanted to beat Vanderbilt. I'm going to be quite honest. We wanted to beat Vanderbilt. But it was always like, I had cousins and relatives that went to Vanderbilt.
Right.
So it's like, it's family. Even my sons that went to Edie White, they're good friends with people that went to Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the high school thing. But once you get out, I think it's more reality than what truly is. I think sometimes high schools push some of that stuff just to get you fired up a little bit.
Especially Cam and Joe being from Edie White, sure didn't want to lose. But Louise Leday, Louise was my first cousin.
Okay.
And Ellie Toops, married to my first cousin.
I remember Ellie quite well.
So it wasn't 6 degrees of separation. It was just very close ties. And I think the brothers egged it on a little bit too.
They did.
They were competitive.
They're very competitive. Those guys, when I first broke into Edie White, we had some of the older brothers, Brother Gaspar and some of the other ones. And wow. And then over the years, we end up with Brother Pat, and it was awesome for all those years.
And Brother Pat was at Vanderbilt, went to Edie White. Brother Gaspar was at Edie White,
went to
Vanderbilt.
Yeah. And again, they've influenced me a lot on, how they taught and how they handled people and how they, dealt with boys. And girls too. It became a co-ed school after a while, but I was very fortunate to be able to learn a lot from them, particularly on how you handle people.
Don't mess with the brothers.
I heard stories.
Yeah, they were just, I don't know how they got their schooling or where they got their discipline, but when they said something, sort of like E.F. Hutton, you better listen.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stories.
And the parents backed them too.
Yes, they did.
That's a difference, isn't it?
I think it's how you treat people sometimes. And back then, people realized that's what it was. And then if you messed up, sometimes corporal punishment was part of what the deal is. I think today is a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think you have to learn how to be able to handle people more by talking with them, showing compassion. One thing I learned from the brothers is you got to show compassion. You got to show you care by being there.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
I teach religion. That's what I do.
Right.
Been doing that for a long time. And it was a Saint John Bosco. And John Bosco always said, you got to be there. You got to love them, no matter who they are. And the Brothers Sacred Heart, almost a mirror image of that. That they show that they love them by being at those events. Michelle Chasson right now is a principal, and she embodies that probably one of the most since I've been there for a while, is that she is at everything. Her face is there, and that's what the brothers used to do. They were there. They showed that they cared.
Every time I cover an Edie White event, there's Michelle. You're right. Her schedule's unbelievable. But you're retiring from coaching.
Correct.
But you're going to continue in the classroom.
Correct.
Which tells me you don't want to leave the classroom.
No, I teach religion, and again, that's a lot of people, know me for coaching, but I also love teaching religion, and I love my faith, and I try to excel at it. I'm not always perfect at it, but I try to enamor to the kids that God loves you, and this is what this is about. Now I do, talk about hell and some of those things too, but also the love of God. I love teaching religion. That's basically why the good Lord put me there. I really believe that. There's a reason
but when was that something instilled in you at an early age?
Or religion? Oh yeah, my mom. Even on her side of the family, my dad's side of the family, both very religious. In fact, at my uncle's funeral the other day, we were talking about that, about how our parents really gave us the faith, passed it on. And I just remember as a kid going to Bottle Lodge, and again, we'd get together with all my mom's family. We'd stay at a rosary in front of the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or we'd go to Good Friday services. And at that time, they were a lot longer than they are today. And it's just there, that. And then I had a grandmother on my dad's side who was so humble, extremely humble, very prayerful woman. And I had great aunts on his side that would take us to Mass all the time. So I learned that from both sides. My mom was a big influence.
When we go to Thibodeau to see Grandma and Grandpa, 3 of my aunts, my mama's sisters, and also the Gross side, who went to Edie White, who you coached, some of them, their sister too. 3 of them were nuns.
Wow.
So when we got to Thibodeau and we pulled up in the driveway, it was a lot of blessing going on. But, that makeup, that they just, like you said, your mom, was it a subtle instillment, or did you just see it in her?
She did it.
Yeah.
She did it, and she brought us to Mass, and she did those things, and just by her life. I mean, she never complained. I never saw that woman complain in my entire life. And again, my dad was a plumber and stuff, and we weren't the richest people in the world. Plumbers today do quite well.
Yeah, they did.
But at that time period, my dad worked hard. He was very good at what he did, extremely good at what he did. And we struggled, but it was a good thing. I had 7 brothers and sisters, so I came from a pretty large family.
Right.
And we enjoyed each other, but she instilled that faith in us. And my dad was an extremely honest person, and he was good. He was good in his faith too, but not as vocal as my mom was.
That's normally the case.
Yeah, that was the case at that time period.
In those old Southern homes. When you started coaching, at what point in your coaching career did it become important to success breed success? You were around Boyd Hebert and Preston Lejeune and people like this who, intense may be too strong a word, but driven.
Well, they were driven.
Yeah.
I just remember, like in football, being on that staff is like, we were going to win because they put so much time. People don't realize how much time they put into it. I just remember, like, I was the film guy. So I'd have to leave like at 5 o'clock in the morning, go pick up film, get back for about 8 o'clock. We'd watch their film till about 12, break it down, put on computer. At that time, you didn't have huddle. So they broke it down, Boy would break it down. Tom would go into the other room and he would put all those tendencies together. Then we'd watch our film, and that was at 2 o'clock. So we were tired. And then after the next day, we'd come back on Sunday and work from about 6 to 10. It was a lot. And then after, Boyd and Preston would take the different offensive, defensive side, and they would go at the recesses and before school, and they would go over blocking assignments, go over who was going to do what defensively, what were your keys. You put in all that time and you saw all of that, and we expected to do well because of that. We were outmanned sometimes, but because of I think our coaching was so much better than everybody else that we were able to win a lot of games.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.